Hi everyone, welcome and thank you so much for checking out my channel. My name is Tanny. I'm an independent author and somebody who just loves great stories. So on this channel, I talk about writing, books I've enjoyed, and lessons I've learned on my publishing journey. We are now halfway through the year, which means it's time for the mid-year book freakout tag once again. This is something I've seen a lot of other creators doing on BookTube lately, and I'm a little late to the party maybe, but I did want to go ahead and do it anyways, so let's just dive in. The first question is, what is your favorite book that you've read this year so far? For me, that would be Embers by E.J. Fish. This is a science fiction book. It is the last book in kind of two related series. So there's a trilogy of 3 books and then this duology that takes place a few years later, and this is the second book in that duology. I can't say too much about it without giving away spoilers, but the entire series basically follows this assassin named Ziva. She ends up working with the brother of a man that she has killed, and they kind of develop a relationship over the course of the series. She's a really interesting character, and it was really fun to see everything that has been building over the last 4 books really come together in this last one. It's a really exciting series. There's a lot of action, but there are a lot of really heartfelt character moments as well. So if you like that kind of thing in your science fiction series, this is definitely one that I would recommend checking out. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite sequel that you've read so far this year? For this one, I also could have gone with Embers, and I would still highly recommend that one, but I'm also going to say it would be Flamefall, which is the sequel to Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. This is a book that I've heard kind of described as like the Russian Revolution, but with dragons. The people who are able to ride the dragons kind of hold all the power in this society, and so we follow a group of characters who are dragon riders, and we get to see the aftermath of this revolution that has taken all of the old powerful people out of power, and now they're trying to build kind of a new system, and it kind of examines, what are the pros and cons of that system, and ways that, like, even though they're trying to make the world a better place, are they really doing more harm than good? It's kind of hard to say for sure. It's very nuanced. I really appreciate that about the book. The characters are really well developed as well, and I loved all of them. This is probably one of my favorite fantasy series ever so far. I'm really excited to read book 3, but I really think that what the author has created here is really special and just very well thought out and well planned. The writing style is really easy to get into. I just really love this book. Number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet? I've heard really great things about Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, and I've just seen a lot of hype for it. It sounds like a really fun, cozy fantasy story that I would really like to check out and read. And I think it actually got picked up by a traditional publisher. It started out as an indie book, so I think that's really cool. And that's definitely one that I want to read soon. Number 4, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? For this one, I'm going to go with Epilogue for Lost Gods by Kat Richter. This is the sequel to Goddess of Nothing at All that she released last year. I was able to actually get an ARC of that, so I have the ebook already, and I am looking forward to reading it soon. I haven't started it yet. The first book was really amazing and really well written. I really loved how nuanced the characters were in that book. Nobody is really entirely good or bad. There's a lot of really complex relationships and dynamics in that book that were interesting to explore. And so I'm really looking forward to finally seeing the aftermath of everything that played out in book 1 and seeing how things end up in book 2. Number 5 is, what is your biggest disappointment so far this year? For this one, I am going to go with a book called The Infinite Noise. I really liked the book cover for this one, and it was on sale as an audiobook a while back, and so I picked it up based on the cover and the premise, which was basically like, what if superheroes went to therapy to kind of deal with some of their problems, which I thought was really interesting. Being a therapist myself, I'm always really interested in books that deal with mental health, especially like in fiction. I think that's really great to see those things explored. I did think that the book handled the mental health aspect of the story pretty well, and I also liked the relationship between the 2 main characters. I think I went into this one with really high expectations and hoping for something more than what it ended up giving me. There were a lot of times where I just kind of felt like nothing really was happening in the story. And I think that was probably the biggest thing for me that made it a disappointment a little bit. Question number 6 is, what is your biggest surprise so far this year? So for me, this one, I'm going to go with the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. I really enjoy dystopian novels. With this one, I was kind of hesitant about and not really sure if I would like it or not. There was something about that premise that just kind of seemed hard to believe for me, maybe, and that's why I had a hard time wanting to pick it up. There's some like suspension of disbelief that you have to go into the story with. But honestly, like, I really ended up enjoying that series a lot. It was a really good time and the characters were really interesting and I liked it more than I expected to. Number 7 is, what is your favorite new author? This could be a debut author or somebody who's new to you. The last book that I read in June was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I've never read anything of hers before. I don't read a ton of nonfiction anyways, but I really ended up connecting with the book itself, and also I think with her writing style. There was something about it that really spoke to me and that made it so that I was able to connect with the book better, I think. I don't know, there was just a lot that I got out of that book and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely would be open to checking out more of her books. Question 9 is, who is your new favorite character? For this one, I'm going to go with a new character that we're introduced to in Flamefall. His name is Griff Garrison. In the first book, we only had 2 point of view characters, and then in this second book, they added a third one. And Griff is kind of on the opposite side of the other 2 characters, and so we get to experience and see a whole new side of things. I appreciated that aspect of the story, but I also just appreciated how well developed he was as a character. He was very easy to connect to, and his actions and motivations throughout the story made sense, even though he is kind of on the side of like the bad guys in the story. It was very easy to empathize with him and connect with him as a character, and I really liked that. Number 10 is, what book has made you cry this year? For this one, I'm going to go with Embers by E.J. Fish. I was doing my critiques on this earlier in the year and messaged the author several times as I was doing that with whatever emotional reaction I was having at the time. There were a lot of feelings in that book, and a lot of tears. I mean, a lot of like laughing and like being very satisfied with certain things in the story, but there was a lot of crying as well. As I said before, it's book 5, so there was a lot of build up to things and a lot of emotional payoff that we got in that last book that was just really satisfying as a reader. Number 11, what is a book that made you happy this year? For this one, I'm going to go with Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This was a nonfiction book. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, and usually it doesn't make me feel all that much, but I really appreciated this book and it really resonated with me, especially like a lot of the things that I've gone through over the last year and have kind of had to like come to terms with about myself and my experiences. This book, Untamed, just really resonated with me and made me feel a lot of things, one of which was happiness and like hopefulness for my future, and just kind of a reassurance that like, even though it's been kind of a rocky road and there's been a lot of things that I've been dealing with, I'm on the path that I need to be right now. Question 12 is, what is your favorite book to film adaptation this year? So I am going to mention 2 of these, and I actually haven't read the books for either of them, but I know that they are adaptations, and I really liked the TV series adaptation. So they're not films, they're television shows. The first one is Under the Banner of Heaven, and the second one is Heartstopper. I actually do want to pick up the Heartstopper graphic novels at some point, but the TV show was excellent. It was really cute and just wholesome, and I loved it. Under the Banner of Heaven is based on a book that was written several years ago that is based on these actual murders that took place in this Mormon community, and both the victims and the perpetrators of the crime were Mormon. This isn't something that I've talked about like really at all. I've kind of mentioned it on social media a little bit. I was born and raised in Mormonism. I have since left. It's been like an ongoing process over the last decade or so, but really 6 to 8 months ago probably is when it all kind of came crashing down for me. I am still like processing a lot and trying to figure out how to talk about that, if it's something that I want to talk about or need to talk about. It's still really complicated for me, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think that the show did a good job of portraying some of the complexities and the complications for Mormonism as an organization and as a religion and as an institution itself, but also for people who are born and raised in that environment and what it looks like to then have to come to terms with some of the things that make it complicated. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I really appreciated the series. Obviously, I think part of that is because of my own personal connection to Mormonism. Anyways, it was a really well done series. Question 13 is my favorite review I wrote or video I created. For this one, I'm actually going to go with a review video that was not based on a book, but it's based on what has very quickly become one of my favorite stories ever. And that was the video review that I posted a couple weeks ago about Our Flag Means Death. Just talking about some of the storytelling aspects and character development stuff that I thought worked really well. That video was so much fun to make. It was kind of a passion project. I've had a lot of thoughts and feelings about the show since I saw it. And so it was really fun for me to just explore that and talk about that in a video. Question 14 is, what is the most beautiful book you have bought or received this year? For this one, I'm going to go with Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I just really love this book cover. It's so pretty, and I bought it earlier this year and read it. The story was pretty good too. I enjoyed it, but the cover is really nice. And then I decided to go ahead and paint the edges. So I did this kind of ombre thing on the edges, and that turned out really good, and I love it. Question 15 is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? For this one, I was looking through the notes of the video that I had done last year, and last year I put Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I do have that on audiobook now. I still haven't read it, so I'm going to go ahead and say that I need to read that one. That's it for the mid-year book freakout tag. I will go ahead and put the questions in the description, so if you want to do it, you are more than welcome to. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and let me know. Leave a comment if you've read any of these books, or if there's anything on this list that you want to check out now. If you want to see more of my videos in the future, please subscribe and ring the bell so that you can be notified as soon as I post a new one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Okay, whenever you get all your giggles out, we'll continue.
2 hours later.
It's great having children just so that they can laugh at you.